So here is what we are going to make today. It is a cute little holder for the the test tubes that Stampin' Up! Has in our holiday catalog this year. These are so cute. They're perfect for putting M&Ms, Skittles, Sixlets or Tic Tacs, little candies like that in. And they make cute little giveaways or treats for people in your life. So this is like a cute little milk crate for your test tubes. You could make these up as a special treat for the trick-or-treaters in your life that you love more than the average child who comes to your door, I guess I might say. They can make cute decorations for the holidays. You could put them on tables as treats for Thanksgiving and Christmas. You could just do all kinds of things with these. So for this one, I'll tell you, I used the black cardstock with Spooky Night designer paper and the Festive Phrases stamp set for this, which is the same stamp set I'm going to use for the Christmas one we are going to make here in a moment. I used our vintage crochet trim here and some of the really cool black rhinestones that we have in this year's holiday catalog. So that's what I used on that one. This one that we make today is going to be Christmas themed, and I'll tell you what you need. You need 6 pieces of cardstock that measure 2 3/4 inches by 3.5 inches. You need a piece of designer paper. This is garden green cardstock. This designer paper is from the Be Merry designer paper pack. This measures 4 1/8 by 8 3/4. Your handle, you need, for the garden green, you need a 3/4 inch by 7.5 inch strip. I attached a piece of the designer paper that measures 1/2 inch by 7.5 inches on top. And then I'm going to put a strip around this one for trim. This measures 1/2 inch by 8 3/4. So first we are going to make what I'm calling the tube holders. And we need to score each of your pieces of the small green cardstock. So these will get scored at 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 2 1/4, and 3. And you want to go ahead and crease each of those, loosen them up a little bit on what is going to be the outside of that 1/2 inch strip on the end. Put some snail and then fold that together. And you'll have a little square. So you will end up with 6 of these. And there's a couple different ways you could attach these together. You could use snail if you want to. It's a little tricky since they're folded together, but you could probably just fold them flat and use some snail. I have already prepared these with some tear and tape adhesive, which will make sure that they don't come apart. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to attach these 3 together, and then attach these on top of those. Okay, now that we have those attached together, we are going to use the designer paper to wrap around that. So let's get our large piece of designer paper. And we want to score this at 2 1/2, 4 1/8, 6 5/8, 8 1/4. And then you want to turn it 90 degrees and score at 1 1/2. When you're scoring on designer paper, you have to be pretty gentle so that you don't tear it. Now we are going to cut on these score lines. Up here I have the larger section, which is going to attach to the top, or the part that you'll be able to see. Down here under this score line will be what's on the bottom of the treat holder. And down here is where we want to trim only up to this score line. And this little flap on the end we will cut off. I want the peppermint paper to show, so I'm going to flip it over. On the back side, on the top part, I am going to attach snail onto that small little flap. And everything except for this last section over here. So start at the small flap, attach snail over to the last one. On the last one, I want some fast fuse just to make sure that well, my fast fuse ran out. I will use some snail and a little strip of tear and tape. And on the bottom, on one of the longer flaps, go ahead and attach 2 pieces of tear and tape. Okay, so now we have adhesive everywhere on this thing. You want to be pretty careful to where you're laying this down. You're going to pick one of those larger sections and try to lay it down as carefully as you can right on top of where you have scored. The reason I suggested that you use snail here is because if you get it in the wrong spot, there is a chance you can get it lifted back up. So that looks pretty good. We'll go with that. And you're going to wrap this around. You may want to fold these before you start attaching all your creases. I forgot to do that. So work your way around. Get that little flap attached. You want that little flap to get covered up eventually. Pull this strip off so that my tear and tape is exposed. And there we go. Now, I'm not exactly sure why on my first one I did not have a little extra piece of paper here, so you'll have to play around with that and see. We'll just wrap that in and it shouldn't cause a problem. So then you want on the bottom, fold in the small flaps, fold in the large flap that does not have tear and tape, and then remove these strips from the tear and tape, and fold that over to seal it shut on the bottom. So there is the base of our tube holder. Now let's get this strip that we have prepared, and you want the everyday label punch. I have been using this punch a ton, and rather than slide it in like normal, we want to slide it in front of the one side so that we're only going to punch the one edge. And punch that so you get the cute little curved edge. Do it on the other end. You want, I use 2 glue dots on each end. To give this a really good hold. And you'll attach these here on the sides. Now I want to attach this green strip on this one. On my Halloween one, I didn't put a strip. I just used that vintage crochet trim. On this one, I thought it would be cute to put a little strip on before I use the ribbon. So I'm going to use snail with, I want something a little bit stronger right at the end to make sure this doesn't come apart. So I'll put a glue dot right at the end. And I am going to start on the side that I think is the back, which is going to be here. Try to wrap this around without sealing it up immediately because I want to make sure my ends meet when I get to the back. So just kind of crease it at the corners as you go along. I'll go ahead and attach it now and get to the back, seal that shut. Now we'll prepare our tag. I stamped the Merry and Bright greeting with this cute Festive Phrases stamp set. I love that. This is the one I used on the Halloween. These coordinate really well with that everyday label punch that we just used. So I stamped that with red, punched it out with the everyday label punch. I punched one with garden green. We are going to attach the two together this direction. Punch a hole in the top with our 1/8 inch hole punch. Get some ribbon. This is called our Quilted Christmas ribbon. And I'm going to tie a bow around here. Start with a knot. String one end onto the tag. And then tie a bow. I'm going to scoot this over a little bit to get it where I want it. And I'm going to use a couple of our white perfect accents to decorate. I want a couple on the sides over here. Looks like I covered up the bottom of the handles. You could even put the handles on after the trim if you want to avoid that, or just put your trim down lower. Put a couple of these on the tag as well. So let's get our treat tubes and slide those in there. Here's one I've already filled up with some red and green M&Ms. And just for fun, because you can never have enough embellishments on a project, I thought it would be fun to add a couple of our Season of Glitz mini bows. Look at these. Aren't these adorable? Oh, I just love these mini bows. So I thought it would be fun to add a few of these. Here you go. Isn't that adorable? Kids would love these. I'm thinking about putting one out on my desk at work where people come in. You could use these for all sorts of things. So there you go.